Good afternoon, everyone. We're glad to see you out this afternoon. My name is Linda Steele, and I was born and raised in Atlantic City. I am presently a resident of Galloway, but I've spent 40-plus years working in Atlantic City, and for all intents and purposes, this is my home. I was employed with the county and the city of Atlantic City, retiring as the certified municipal tax collector. Upon retirement, I remained very active in Atlantic City. Ask any council person, right, Mayor? And over the years, we've seen a lot of changes in Atlantic City, significant changes, but they weren't always for the best. I was here when Atlantic City reclaimed its glory as the world's playground and a tourist attraction, and casinos came. But the casinos, just as fast as they grew and impacted Atlantic City, some doors were closed and many jobs were lost. And in that loss, people were put out of their homes because they could not afford their mortgages, and they faced a lot of trials. As a longtime member of the NAACP, I've seen how foreclosures impact families, and I've seen a lot of families that had to leave the area because the housing wasn't available and their houses were taken. Since the recession, the city of Atlantic City has had a hard time recovering. New Jersey's foreclosure rate is one of the highest in the country, and at New Jersey is one of the highest, or Atlantic County is one of the highest foreclosures in the state of New Jersey. So the changes that we have seen, we've had ups and downs, but we're still positive and confident that Atlantic City still has a lot to offer. And thanks to Governor Murphy and his administration, I believe that the change that's coming is going to be a positive one. And I hope that you have that confidence as well. Today, the governor has taken a long overdue step to help communities of Atlantic City to continue to move through the struggles of foreclosure and this crisis. The bills he's signing today will create a real path on the foreclosure road and give this community the hope that we can change and we can make progress. Thanks to Governor Murphy for signing the bills into law today, and a thank you to the legislators who initiated this and helped this to come to fruition. As Atlantic City recovers, we see the casino industry coming back, but we're also building on a future that is not predicated on just one industry. Instead, these bills collectively create a new future and more stability for individuals employed in Atlantic City. Regardless of whether they are in a thriving industry or not, we are looking to build on more than one industry. So this is just another part of Governor Murphy and his administration's commitment to our plan for the future, for our plan for recovery. And we are very grateful for this revitalization of Atlantic City. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Governor Phil Murphy.
Thank you, Linda. I have to say I'm having a little bit of a vertigo feeling here. You all look a lot lower than this. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Linda, so much for your introduction and for your more than 50 years of commitment to your hometown. And we are committed to working with the people like you who are working to bring it back. So thank you and bless you. 10 years after the housing crash decimated the dreams of thousands of families, and even as we keep working to restore our economy to pre-recession levels of growth and incomes, New Jersey still bears a steady burden that is one of the legacies of the Great Recession, our foreclosure crisis. New Jersey continues to grapple with the nation's highest levels of foreclosure. Roughly 1 in every 1,000 homes across our state is in some phase of the foreclosure process. Atlantic City remains the hardest hit metropolitan area of the entire country. Trenton ranks as number 2. If there's a top 2 list you do not want to be on, this is one of them. For a state as strong and resilient as ours, the foreclosure crisis runs counter to our values. Today, we are taking our strongest steps yet to counter this crisis. All across Atlantic City, we see the seeds of rebirth. Stockton University's Gateway Project, its president, Harvey Kesselman, is with us in the back. The Hard Rock, where I just came from, the CRETA boss, Matt Doherty, is with us. The 600 North Beach project on so-called Pauline's Prairie. And just a few blocks north of here, Tennessee Avenue is experiencing its own rejuvenation. But Atlantic City, or any other community in our state, cannot ultimately succeed where vacant and foreclosed houses forlornly sit or where families live in limbo. We must give both families and homes a second chance so both can contribute to their community's revival and long-term stability. And that's why we're here today. Today I am honored to be signing into law not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, Mila, but 9 strong measures that will help us get closer to the top of scaling our foreclosure crisis so we can ultimately beat it down. I'm honored to be joined by a number of distinguished folks up here and in the audience with us today. New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency Executive Director Chuck Richmond's in the house. Chuck, always an honor. Our special counsel for Atlantic City, more from him in a moment, Jim Johnson. The mayor and members of council, freeholders, are with us today. Bless you. I also acknowledge Allison Jones and Michelle Smith, representing the Administrative Office of the Courts, which has been a key partner in initiating and implementing these reforms. I'm also today honored to be joined by some of the sponsors of these bills, and I must acknowledge the strong leadership of Senate Community and Urban Affairs Committee Chairman Troy Singleton is in the house. Thank you for that, Troy. To his left, Assemblyman John Armato. John, thank you for your leadership. Assemblywoman Mila Jacey is with us. Mila, thank you for your leadership. Bill Spearman is with us as well. Bill, God bless you, and great to have you here. As well as Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin, Assembly Housing Committee Chair Benji Wimberly, and Senator Steve Arojo, who could not be with us today, who are sponsors on some of these bills. Importantly, Speaker Coughlin and Steve Arojo, it should be mentioned, also served on the Special Committee on Residential Foreclosures established by Chief Justice Stu Rabner. And that's an important point to make because that body has led to today's codifying a lot of the suggestions that were made. Together and today, we begin tackling our foreclosure crisis in several distinct ways. Among the actions we're taking today, probably the most important, but they're all important, we are codifying into law the judiciary's loan mediation program, which has been successful in helping 40% of the families that have sought its help resolve their cases through loan modification and other non-foreclosure strategies. We can never forget that the best way to attack our foreclosure crisis is to help families work with lenders to stay out of foreclosure. And that commitment continues through the HMFA's support for providing high-quality housing counseling services. Additionally, we will require lenders to give families more notice about their rights in the foreclosure process to help keep them in their homes. We will also help to ensure that lenders which have taken possession of a property put that property back on the market more quickly so it can be given a second chance and so it doesn't sit vacant. And as we see all too often, unmaintained as a blight upon a neighborhood. Now, let me be clear. Nothing we will do will cure our foreclosure crisis overnight. But these efforts, along with our other efforts to work with families to keep them in their homes, will help us move forward and hopefully very soon move steadily down the rankings of nationwide foreclosures. This is not an urban problem or a rural problem. This is a New Jersey problem. Every county and nearly every community is dotted with homes that stand as reminders of the worst of the recession. Today, we begin the work of reclaiming these homes for our families and for our future. I am grateful again to all of the sponsors, both here and not with us today, to the families and the advocates who have carried these bills to my desk. Let's keep working together. It is now my pleasure to introduce our special counsel for Atlantic City, whose work has been critical, and I cannot understate that more strongly, to forging a new path forward for this extraordinary community and its families. Please help me welcome Jim Johnson.
Good afternoon. Governor Murphy, thank you both for the introduction, for the opportunity to serve, but most importantly for your leadership. Leadership that's been animated by compassion, and from my particular perch, compassion for the people and the place of Atlantic City. We are embarked on a multi-part strategy, and that strategy is animated and it is driven by the leadership and the energy and the compassion of Governor Murphy. I think we should applaud him again. One of the things that the governor asked us to do was to look at problems systematically. And so one of the areas that we focused on, and we contributed to, we're not the lead in, the architects of this plan and this rich legislative package are before you, was that we needed to focus on the foreclosure crisis as part of a series of issues that are challenging and facing Atlantic City. What these bills will do, I had a chance to speak with one of the architects just before this, and Senator Singleton described the bills, and he said, listen, there are basically two principal things. There are many things going on, but one is to make sure that families are able to stay in their homes, and they have notice and the information to protect their rights and to be counseled to stay in their homes. That's job one. Job two, which is how you end up protecting communities, and you end up putting homes back on the market, is that the foreclosure process in New Jersey can be among the longest in the United States. These bills will make it faster and fairer and faster. And what that means is that families will not have clouds above their heads, but neighborhoods also won't have blight in them from homes that are off of the tax rolls and that are dragging property values down and have an impact on the quality of life. And so I am grateful, and I think I can speak for all the people in Atlantic City that I have spoken to, that these bills have been passed, that they will soon be signed, and that we've had an opportunity to work on these challenges together. Thank you.
Well said, Jim, and I cannot thank you enough for your leadership in this community and your partnership. As Frank and his members of council will attest, it's been a real partnership, and that's a different dynamic than you were used to before, and you've done an extraordinary job. I'm excited also to sit with your team after this, which will be a lot of fun. Please help me welcome another guy incredibly important to this day and to getting us to this day, HMFA Executive Director. Please help me welcome Chuck Richmond.
Thank you, Governor. I'd like to share some thoughts on one of the bills that the governor is going to sign this afternoon, and that's the bill to codify the Judiciary Foreclosure Mediation Program. It will have a profound impact on the many families struggling to save their homes in foreclosure. Today, roughly 20,000 homeowners, families, are somewhere in the foreclosure process. And as the governor mentioned, that's 1 in 1,000 homes. In greater Atlantic City, that's roughly 1 in 42 homes. In Trenton, it's 1 in 64 homes. We lead the nation in that category. And we also are one of the most impacted states in what are called zombie foreclosures, where foreclosure begins. For some reason, the foreclosure process stops. Maybe the bank has withdrawn, but the homeowners have left that property. And so there are 900 some zombie homes in the state presently where no one is maintaining those properties. And these bills will help rectify that. Homeowner participation early in the process, both in terms of mediation through the court system and through counseling, will absolutely save homeowners their home. When you combine the two, there was a report done by the Urban Land Institute that suggests up to 70% of the people who enter those type programs find a way to ameliorate the impact of the foreclosure and are able to maintain their homes. A similar study was recently conducted by the Federal Reserve of Boston. They looked at nearly 13,000 homeowners in New England who had entered the foreclosure process. Over 7,000 of those homeowners were able to get a modification of their mortgage. And another 5,000 were able to work extended time and extended efforts in order to stay in their home. After a year, 70% of those folks remained in their homes. That's what we want to achieve in this state, and that's what we think this legislation can achieve. The legislation moves, very importantly, the first notice to homeowners that they can join the mediation program to the letter that they receive from the bank intending to foreclose. Not once the legal papers have been filed. And frankly, what we hear from folks, they get that packet and they're afraid to open it. But a letter that says, hey, you're in trouble. We're going to foreclose, but here are some opportunities for you to try and deal with that pending foreclosure, we believe is an effective tool for homeowners. We've had discussions with banks. None have come to fruition yet, but maybe with some help from the folks standing behind, about allowing HMFA or some other state agency access to those intent letters so that a separate letter can be sent to the homeowners enforcing the importance of having mediation and participating in with housing counselors in that process. We cannot underestimate the importance of having a counselor there. You go into mediation, and it's a bank lawyer and a homeowner, and it's uneven. Having counselors participate, if it's as little as training the homeowner, if it's as much as showing up and participating, is critical to making that scale more balanced. And probably from my perspective, one of the important aspects of that bill is for the first time in the state's history that there is a funding source to maintain both the counseling program and the mediation program into the future. You know, stability of programs is critical. And we had a counseling mediation program approximately a decade ago. It ran really well, and the funding dried up. And I think the funding dried up in 2013. Now there is a path forward with permanent funding, at least, and maybe it's sad that we talk about at least how much money, because that's based upon an ongoing level of foreclosures, but we expect that at least $3 to $3.5 million a year will be available for both activities, and that is critical to make them work. Governor, I expect that you will sign it, and thank you for your leadership in doing so.
Thanks, Chuck. Thank you, man. Chuck, I think the odds are fairly high that I will sign it if we get through the next number of remarks. I seriously want to work with you on the second letter idea because I think that's the least we owe these folks. So well said, and let's follow up on that. These are 9 bills that had a group of sponsors, and I might add, importantly, from both sides of the aisle. This is not a one side of the aisle day. This is an all-in for New Jersey day. and one of the lead sponsors in the Senate and a consistent advocate is coming up next. Please help me welcome Senator Troy Singleton.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my honor and privilege to be here with you. To my friend Friota Corsi, it's always good to see you. Let me begin by acknowledging the incredible work of the folks who put this together. And it is apropos that we are here in Atlantic City, not solely because of what the governor's talked about and the work that Jim is doing with the entire elected officials, both on the county and local level, to create the rebirth of this beautiful and anchor community of those of us in southern New Jersey and our great state. But 5.5 months ago, over in a conference room not too far from here, we met to talk about how we were going to address this issue. We had stakeholders from community advocates. We had the judiciary. I see some of my friends, Allison Jones is here with me, Stacy Berger, who worked with us tirelessly, my friends from the Condo Association, from CAI, who are here, everyone, the Bankers Association, New Jersey League, so on, and so many people who are touched by this foreclosure situation from every angle imaginable, sat in a room and said, we need to figure this out. And while we had the blueprint that the governor talked about from Justice Rabner and the team that put that together, we decided let's all roll up our sleeves and everyone become a true stakeholder in trying to figure out how to make this work. I am proud of the effort and the work that was put in. And I would be remiss as a former staffer if I didn't acknowledge two great folks who shepherded this issue from start to finish. My dear friend Rose Ferris, who's now in Jim's team, who did incredible work, herding cats as it were, and putting us there. And my former staffer, who's now moved on to bigger and better things, the Leah Couch, who put in tireless amount of hours to make sure that we had everyone front and center on what this truly means. And if you think about foreclosure and you think about the votes that the governor talked about, there were Democrats, Republicans, everyone saw the benefit of this. And every now and then housing policy can become partisan. But I think each of us have recognized that the grip of foreclosures and what they do to our communities, how they stagnate our ability to grow our economy, and the true community and way of life that we would all cherish. Everyone came together to find a solution to try and move this forward. I'm proud of these 9 bills. I'm proud of what they do to help folks in the beginning stages of foreclosure. And as Jim said, make sure that we have a fair process and an expeditious process to move the foreclosure process along. But it could not have been done without the collaboration of so many individuals who came together to make this work. I'm honored to have played a small part in trying to shepherd this along, but I'm more appreciative of the work of our governor and his partnership with this community to make sure Atlantic City's best days are still ahead of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Troy, and thank you for your leadership. And you mentioned Stacy and some of the other groups. Renee Kubiakis is here, and we got a lot of folks who helped get us across this. This was, they say it takes a village, and there's no better evidence of that than today. You don't get 9 bills across the goal line without an enormous amount of effort and cooperation. So hats off to everybody. In both chambers, we had leadership, and I'd love to bring up 2 leaders from the Assembly. First, please help me welcome a leader on this, education, so many other important items for our state, Assemblywoman Myla J.C.
I'm struggling with not getting emotional because this bill signing is a long time coming. And the emotional toll that families face is compounded by the unknown, and it happens, as Chuck mentioned, in an adversarial setting with a lender poised to unravel a life that the family may have built. It's difficult and it's frightening. And as I address you, I'm thinking of someone very close to me who lost their house. After, the recession, lost their job, lost their home, and they're rebuilding their lives, but it's very, very difficult. This law will require, as mentioned, that people in foreclosure be notified that they are entitled to free professional help from fully trained housing counselors. And in the back of my mind is the hearing that we had where counselors came with clients and begged us to continue the funding, and we were not able to do it. We know that mediation means significantly enhanced outcomes. I thank Governor Murphy for signing this bill, and I dedicate it to my friend and former colleague, Chairman Jerry Green, whose tireless efforts to promote safe and affordable places to call home are legendary. We worked together for 10 years on this and many other bills, and I know that he would be pleased to know that we finally got it done. Thank you.
God love Jerry. Amen. He was as fierce an advocate on this topic as anybody, maybe in our country, but certainly in this state. Thank you, Mila, for that. Last but not least, Atlantic County's own, and a guy who's seen this up close and personal, given his life in this county and also his seat in the Assembly. Please help me welcome Assemblyman John Amardo.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the governor for being here in Atlantic City today for the signing of this bill. It shows that the state recognizes issues we are having here in Atlantic County. I feel our responsibility as legislators is to tackle the big issues that will help our communities succeed. As a part of that, I'm honored to be here with the governor as he signs these package of 9 bills to expand protection for homeowners in the foreclosure process. I'm also proud to be part of it in the legislative field. With these bills, we are protecting homeowners and finally addressing the real problem with foreclosures. And as I end, as Troy said, we have tremendous staff that helps us every single day. We are the face. Everything else is our staff, and just a shout out to them. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, John. Thank you, man. Partly because I'm about to sign 9 bills, and I promise you I'll sign them as fast as I can, and partly because I think Michael Aaron's out there. I can barely see you. I think what we're going to do is sign the bills, and then I'm going to come down and visit with the press down at sea level, if that's okay. I want to thank again, Linda. Thank you for all of your decades of work on behalf of this community and this county. Extraordinary leadership. Chuck, thank you to you and your leadership. This is a new day is dawning, and we're going to do a lot more good together on this. Jim, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for this community and more broadly, and I'm really excited to sit with your team shortly. And on the Senate side, Troy, thank you for your leadership, and John and Mila on the Assembly side. We wouldn't be here without you. To all the advocates, the other distinguished guests and elected officials, thank you for everything you did to get us to this incredibly important moment. And with that, I'm going to go over and sign these into law. Where's the money shot? Because I can't see anything. This is the picture that goes in the record book, or the yearbook. Okay, now the business. Steve, you good? Okay, bear with me. I'm told that the best way to do this is to just bang out the first 8 of these. Would anyone like to sing or One of Milo's best subjects in school, math. The other is not, just want to be sure. Be darned if I signed all these and ran out of a pen to give out. So we'll do that. Yes, sir. All right. So here we go. Even before I start the ninth one, Linda, you get pen number one. All right. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Space up my, I think I need one more pen, team. If someone could deliver one more pen, that would be great. Special Counsel Jim Johnson, where are you, Jim? Thank you. HMFA Executive Director Chuck Richmond. Chuck, where are you? Senator Troy Singleton. Assemblywoman Mila Jacey. Assemblyman John Armando. John. You guys are both here. Will you get one? I hope so. Come on, man. I need one more pen. Sorry. No, I don't know. Nice to see you, man. You got one more back there? They're running to the car. Assemblyman Bill Spearman. Bill, congratulations. I may have to give you one of my private pens here. Any movement back there?
Go to the car.
Okay. In the meantime, D, freeholder, Ernest Ernie Dorsey, Atlantic County. Okay, you're going to end up getting one of my private pens here in a moment, so hold on. Any sign of life back there? Apologies. Yeah. Can I recycle yours? I gotta give this 30 more seconds, then we set it up. Can we give the mayor a better pen than you? Did you just buy this at a corner big store? Frank, I owe you one. I'm going to sign it with Linda's again, but just let the record show I handed you this, but you're going to hand it back to Linda. And I'm going to hand it in a minute. That's from Sam Castle. So these 9 bills, I'm happy to say, have the law of the land. Thank you all.